Now, into the ticket office of Disneyland.
Oh boy, let's do this. Don't think the CIA is going to be trying to hack your second-gen iPod.
I didn't think so. There might have been a lot of illegal music on there. I wouldn't doubt it. But, I mean...
You were supposed to bring death to the flagships, not join them.
Google has found a new way to piss me off.
iTunes is a constant source of embarrassment.
Every time I say it, it's going to suck even more.
May I present to you the cat?
I am Nadella. I can't do it anymore without laughing. I was going to do the whole thing.
Welcome, everyone, to the Calling All Platforms podcast. I am your host, Wes, and I'm here with Landon.
Hello.
And Caleb.
I am also here.
And we are here to talk all things tech this week. And last week. Because guess who wasn't here last week?
I was not here.
Yep, he was off doing gallivanting across somewhere. And anyway,
I was in
we don't
North
even know about
Dakota last week. I think maybe South Dakota. I can't remember.
Something. Having fun. Well, let's get into this here for this week. We're going to move over to some general tech news that we got here first. Because, it's pretty general. We have the Samsung Galaxy Unpacked event has been announced.
Yeah, not the first one. That one already happened back in January, listener, because all of Samsung's events are unpacked. I'm actually now really curious to know if Samsung, if they, for some reason, have events for like refrigerators or TVs, if they're also unpacked.
I mean, you've got to unpack the refrigerator at some point, I guess.
It's
right.
true, but like, is literally anytime Samsung has any sort of event, it's going to be unpacked. I don't know. I've never looked into it. All their tech events are unpacked. It's weird. Anyways, this one is happening on July 9th at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. They're going to be putting the video onto their YouTube channel. So if you care to watch it, that's when you would want to watch it live. Or you can wait till it's done and watch it later, or you don't have to watch it at all and just get all your information from other places like the Calling All Platforms Tech Podcast after it happens, because we will be covering it later. The big tagline for this event is said Ultra Unfolds, which is kind of leaning towards the idea of maybe there's going to be an Ultra version of one of these phones. So that's fun. What we are expecting, obviously, is the Galaxy Z Fold 7 and the Z Flip 7. And like I said, possibly a Fold 7 Ultra. There's also been rumors of a Flip 7 FE, which stands for Fan Edition, which obviously Samsung doesn't understand their fans because this is usually the cheap version. I actually am most excited or most looking forward to that Flip 7 FE because that's going to directly compete with Motorola's regular Razr phones in that potentially $600 range. And I like that idea, especially compared to the idea of a Fold 7 Ultra, which is probably going to cost $2,000. And that's absurd for a phone in general.
Yeah.
Other things we are expecting at this event is the new Galaxy Watch 8. And the rumors on that one is it potentially is going to have a blood glucose monitoring system somehow on it, but that's also been rumored for every watch for the past 3 or 4 years, so I'm not getting my hopes up on that. If it does happen, that would be great. If it doesn't, that's fine. Unfortunately, though, the design is going to be changing. They've always had that circular design that I've actually really liked the look of most Samsung watches. But they're going to be copying the design of the Galaxy Watch Ultra from last year, which is that circular watch face inside of a square squircle type body, which I really don't like. Like, I understand why Apple does that because all of their watches are that same rectangular squircle type design. That's fine.
Yep.
Samsung, all of your watches are round. Why did you have to make the Ultra this weird hybrid version? It doesn't work. It doesn't look good. And I'm afraid that these watches are also just going to look really bad. That's my personal opinion, but it's the right opinion. Also,
There you go.
a new version of the Galaxy Ring is supposed to be coming out of this, and also an updated version of the Watch Ultra. Makes sense. New year, new watches, new wearables, new phones, blah, 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 blah. There's also rumors of potentially them teasing, not actually announcing, but teasing a trifold device. That should be interesting if it actually happens. There's been rumors of them making this type of device for about a year now. So I'm curious to see if it actually happens and what if they give any sort of specs or if it's just pictures or what they're going to do. I'm curious on it because there's only one of there's one or two. Huawei makes one. I think there might just be the one, but nobody can get it in the US right now because it's Huawei. So that's fine.
Yeah.
The thing to note for right now, listener, if you are interested potentially in buying any of these things, if you pre-register at Samsung's website, you can get a $50 credit that you can buy the whatever phone or watch that you want with. But that needs to be done before the event starts. Even if you don't know if you're going to buy any of these things, if there is a chance that you may as well just go pre-register, get the $50 credit. And then also along with that, if you do that, they are entering everyone who pre-registers into a drawing for $5,000 Samsung credit. And that just goes for anything on their website, which includes refrigerators, washers and dryers, TVs, anything, not just phones, not just wearables. You can use that $5,000 towards anything if you win it. There's only going to be one person that wins that. So not very likely, but it's there. It's an option, I guess. Incentivize pre-registering because $50. It used to be much better, credit that you would get for pre-registering, but it's fine. But yeah, Samsung's Galaxy Unpacked, July 9th. We will be paying attention and reporting back once it happens.
Awesome. Hopefully people are excited for that.
Oh, I don't know why, because Samsung hasn't done anything exciting with their phones for the past 5 years. Same as Apple and same as Google. It's all been boring.
Yeah.
True.
I mean, I would love to see something unique and interesting, but I just don't think it's going to happen this year for any of the major phone manufacturers, unfortunately.
It's been that way for quite a while, but we'll see what happens.
There's a reason I still have an iPhone 13.
Well, I mean, I'm sitting with still a Pixel 7.
Yeah.
Wow. I have the newest phone here by a wide margin.
It's true.
And I bought mine used.
All right. Let's go ahead and move to the next here. We got the Fairphone 6.
Yeah, speaking of phones actually doing something interesting, so Fairphone, this, as it implies, this is the Fairphone 6. They've been doing this for a few years now. Their whole thing has been making phones that are very repairable. Like you can basically switch out almost anything on this phone yourself with just off-the-shelf type parts, which is really nice. Like you can't necessarily upgrade things yourself, but you can replace things really easily. And that's the whole thing with this phone as well. The big difference here, though, is they've basically de-Googlified this phone. Like this does run Android, but they partnered with a company called Marina, and they make an operating system that's based off Android. They call it EOS, not to be confused with any of the Canon cameras. It's not that. It's a different situation here. But this is a more privatized operating system. It even has different default apps in there. They call it Micro G is what the app setup is, and it kind of mimics some of the Google services that are there, but they're more privacy focused and whatnot. And so they have their own mail and calendar apps. They also have Marina Workspace is what it's called, like a Excel type Word or those type of software. They have a Marina Vault for end-to-end encryption. They have different parental controls. And this was the most interesting one to me. They have SMS-based Find My Device. Not entirely sure how well that's going to work, but they have it. So, yeah. They haven't announced a ton about the hardware of this phone. So far, what we do know is it has a Snapdragon 7S Gen 3, so it's a little older processor, but it is a flagship processor, just a couple years old. It's got Gorilla Glass 7i, and then, like I said, the EOS operating system, and then one of the 3 rear cameras is a 50-megapixel sensor. They didn't say which one. They just said there is a 50-megapixel sensor on the back. So that's what we know so far. They also don't have a release date yet, but I believe you can pre-order it right now. This is available I guess it is available right now in the UK and in Europe, and it will be coming to the US, but that is for pre-order right now. So, and they say it will begin shipping in August to the US. So, there you go. That's the new Fairphone 6.
Nice. All right. Next thing we got here is the Unihertz Titan 2.
Yeah, this one, I really normally wouldn't talk about this type of phone, but it is very interesting to me. So, listener, if you happen to be anywhere near the age range of us, which is no longer young, I wouldn't call us necessarily old, but we're old. You might have had a BlackBerry back in the day, and you might have really enjoyed that phone because everyone that had one can't shut up about how much they love the BlackBerry, even though once a regular modern style smartphone came about, they were also the ones to get rid of their BlackBerry and buy one of those. I find it weird. But
Yeah.
this phone is basically what BlackBerry used to be, kind of like there was a BlackBerry phone that came out of, how long ago? 5-6 years ago. It was a BlackBerry Priv, I believe is what it was called. And it was more kind of a modern smartphone. Like it ran Android on it, but it had the BlackBerry keyboard on the bottom. This is basically that. And it's not a bad looking phone. It would be very interesting to use, I would imagine. The specs on this thing, it's got a MediaTek Dimensity 7300 chip, so not a flagship chip, but it's fine. 12 gigs of RAM, 512 gigs of storage. It also has a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. So if you're really craving that nowadays, here you go. If you really want to live in the past with a keyboard and a headphone jack, this is the phone for you.
Yeah, there you go.
I kind of miss the past when you put it that way.
That's fair.
I started thinking if I even have a headphone, like I switched over to the wireless and I haven't bought anything new for headphones in a long time. That's wired. So
the only wired headphones I have are the ones I'm wearing right now for podcasting. But
yeah,
I actually have been slowly switching back to wired headphones because wireless it's convenient, I grant you, but there's so many compromises. It's way more expensive too. I don't know, man.
That is also very true. Cameras on this phone, it's got a 50 megapixel main camera, 8 megapixel 3.4x telephoto sensor, and then on the front it's got a 32 megapixel camera. And it is running Android 15. I can't even guarantee that this will be upgraded to Android 16, but it does have Android 15, so it is currently up to date-ish. And this phone actually is on Kickstarter right now, and they met their goal of $100,000 in the first day. People apparently really want this phone. They're, as of recording, the goal was $100,000. They have currently gotten 1.3 million. So over 4,000 people are backing this phone. So it's a significant amount of people that actually want one of these phones. I'm not one of them, but I kind of get the appeal for having a physical keyboard.
I was going to say, I kind of like that it's an option
Yeah.
And like, if you go and look at their website, they've got a section on their Kickstarter page with a list of all of the devices that they have kickstarted and released.
Yeah.
It's quite a few. They seem to be pretty good at this. And I don't know how good their older phones are, but they've got a few with QWERTY keyboards here. And the prices are all pretty dang reasonable. I mean, they're low-end Android phones for sure, but they're priced like low-end Android phones. So I'm not complaining, you know?
Yeah. I mean, right now on Kickstarter, if you want to get the actual phone, you only have to pay $269.
Yeah.
And it's saying that the MSRP is going to be $400, which is still not bad. Even for the specs that you're getting, it's really a pretty good price. And one thing I failed to mention on the specs is this display is a 1-to-1 aspect ratio. So it is square. So that's where things get really interesting, and trying to run modern apps on that type of thing that are used to a much taller display, it's going to be unique, to say the least.
Yeah.
But like Caleb said, I like that companies are doing things like this because there are fans out there that do want this type of phone. Obviously, there's 4,400 people that have backed this phone that are saying, yes, give us more of these, please. So I like that there are companies doing the weird thing, because the main companies, as we've said multiple times for a lot of years, haven't done anything unique in a long time.
Yep. And I'm just on their website now, scrolling through their other options, and they have a Titan Slim, which is a more of a traditional smartphone aspect ratio on the screen, but with a QWERTY keyboard on it.
Yeah.
And then the original Titan, it's $300. Honestly, it doesn't look too bad. They've got really tiny phones. They've got rugged phones. They've got a nothing phone. That's just straight up the nothing phone with glyphs on the back and everything. They really just robbed that. Okay, well, so that's what you expect. That one has an analog clock on the back. I mean, I don't know what else you want.
Yeah, definitely an option.
This is a weird company.
Funny. All right. Well, it looks like we got a new entry here that was put in just a little bit ago. Commodore is getting bought.
Yeah. So, listener, again, if you're old like us, actually older than us, let's be honest.
Yeah, actually.
None of us really grew up with the Commodore 64. I probably came the closest because, well, we had significantly newer and much nicer computers in my house when I was growing up. The computer that I played games on the most was an Atari ST. So that's from about the latter half of the Commodore 64 era of PC gaming. So I'm kind of familiar with the era, not necessarily the Commodore itself.
Mm-hmm. Right.
However, Commodore is a brand. They were just, I don't know, they were groundbreaking in terms of the technology, the software that they introduced. They kind of started PC gaming. Nintendo had consoles before the Commodore existed. Atari had consoles before the Commodore existed. But desktop PC gaming, home gaming, that wasn't really a thing until Commodore pretty much started it. So, granted, okay, I say it wasn't really a thing. It was technically a thing, but nobody did that. The computers were too expensive for people who just wanted to play games to get. Commodore fixed that problem. It's a brand with a lot of history that has undergone, well, let's see, in was it the early 90s or the late 80s, they went bankrupt and got sold and split and sold and merged and resold and all kinds of crap. The Commodore brand has been through the ringer in the same way that the Atari brand has, or the Yahoo brand, or the
BlackBerry.
Polaroid brand, the BlackBerry brand. Yeah, all of these brands where like technically they still exist, giant air quotes, but they've, they don't really exist anymore. So a few years ago, right, Polaroid managed to somehow bring it back a little bit. They got resold to somebody who actually cared about the history of the Polaroid brand. And they're now back to essentially just manufacturing film for their quirky little cameras.
Yeah.
But they're making new cameras too, and stuff like that. They're based off of their old designs, but they're capturing the nostalgia, right? That's the thing. So there's a guy on YouTube. The heck is his name? The YouTube channel was called what was it? Retro Recipes, but it's been rebranded over the past few weeks as Retro Recipes X Commodore. Christian Simpson, that's his name. He, a few weeks ago, released a video about how he was trying to buy or figure out how to buy or license the Commodore brand so that the community that is trying to make Commodore 64 themed stuff can use it and just call that stuff Commodore stuff instead of, having to dance around it. And, that was kind of all, like, I watched that video and I thought that was sort of what he was going for. Earlier today, it's been difficult for me to find stuff in the tech news to be at all even remotely excited about. So this kind of, like, I almost forgot about it because I just assumed that everything I watch on YouTube makes me depressed. But earlier today, he released a video about this experience. It's like the part 2. He has actually been able to get an offer from the current holders of the Commodore trademarks to purchase them.
Oh.
And the number he said was low 7 figures. So still very expensive. But if you think about how much a brand itself can be worth, it could have been valued in like the 50 to 60 million range. So like, obviously low 7 figures is a heck of a lot better than it could be,
Yes.
The video was basically him saying, like, I'm working on getting the funding. We've got a good chunk of it kind of like squared away. But in order to secure the rest of the funding to buy it, he has been getting in contact with a bunch of people from the original Commodore company, like that started, like people that were original executives in Commodore, people that were original developers of the original technology that went into the original Commodore machines and stuff like that. And he's been getting them to come on board as technical advisors, and he got one of the guys from Silicon Valley, like HBO's Silicon Valley, the show, to come on as a quote unquote chief creative officer. He's basically he's providing funding, but they gave him a title anyways. Stuff like that. So he's been doing that to try and, get some, again, launch a vision for what this is supposed to look like in the future, so that more people will jump on board to provide funding so they can buy this. And the vision that he's got for what he wants to do with this going forward is essentially not just like nostalgia bait a bunch of Gen Xers into buying, crappy Commodore themed keyboards or something like that. Like, they want to do faithful recreations of old Commodore hardware because of the nostalgia, right? Because they care. He wants to, have like repair programs and stuff in place for people that have old Commodores and want to keep them running and that kind of thing. Like, he wants to do that, support the old stuff. But he's also talking about, like, I would love to be able to turn this into new stuff for the future, kind of from the perspective of, like, imagine Commodore hadn't gone bankrupt and technology had continued to develop in the way that people hoped it would when Commodore was new, which means, nobody was thinking about social media. Nobody was thinking about generative AI or large language models or stuff like that. People were thinking along different lines. And so he's kind of like, I want to think along those different lines and see what we think Commodore would be making now if they had continued to progress along those lines and just start from there. And I'm like, that is really interesting.
It is.
Like, what a unique take on this. And this guy's YouTube channel has been around for years, and he's just been doing retro tech stuff that entire time. So I'm like, if anybody is going to be a CEO of a revitalized, revamped Commodore with the intent of trying to like produce products that Commodore would have made if Commodore had continued to exist as it originally did this whole time, those seem like the right hands to me. So I'm cautiously optimistic that this is going to turn into something really awesome. And at the very least, even if all we get is like a revamped, like modernized version of this is what the late 80s computing experience was like, and now it's fully supported and whatnot, I'm still interested. I still think that's cool. So yeah, Commodore. Somebody's trying to buy it and like kind of bring it back.
That's actually really cool. Like, if he can go back to the time thinking that and just crazy. It's a unique take on the whole, like, what am I going to do with this old brand? But I mean, it's honestly not, I guess it's not that different than what Polaroid did, really. True.
Because like all of their new camera designs are rooted in their original emphasis on instantly being able to hold a picture in your hand.
Yeah.
You know? Like all their new stuff is still based around that whole thing, but it is new stuff, you know, with new manufacturing sensibilities and new style sensibilities and new convenience sensibilities and stuff like that. But it's still emphasizing the whole, like, as instantly being able to hold the picture in your hand. So
that's cool.
That it's kind of the same thing. And I feel like Polaroid's been doing, like, has made a good shift in that area. So let's hope this works out. Yeah. He did specifically say no Commodore branded paper shredders, because that was apparently a thing somebody did with the Commodore brand at some point in the 30 years since they went bankrupt.
Wow. That's amazing.
That's funny.
All right. Well, I guess since we're talking kind of Commodore gaming, we'll get into more gaming, I guess. I don't know. Sort of. Let's get into this. Speaking of big brands, and I don't know. That was a terrible segue, but let's get into this. First thing we got here, we wanted to talk about Microsoft came out and said that Microsoft and AMD are still going to be working together on Xbox consoles and handhelds.
Well, yeah, because it's going to have Microsoft and AMD in a, different company's hardware.
So let's talk about the key things. One thing, they came out on a random day and sent out a video about this. Sarah Bond got on there, talked about it. So it said a few things, key things I figured we could talk about. Obviously, first is they're going to continue to make Xbox consoles. So they didn't say console, they said consoles. So there you go. If you were wondering if this was the last generation, looks like we got at least one more. They did say multi-year, so for that. But they're also making the handhelds. So with that said, we had heard that Xbox actually was making their own handheld, and all of a sudden SteamOS came out and they shelved it. They're like, what's been here? I've been kind of keeping an eye on this. Apparently SteamOS has rattled Microsoft hardcore on Windows.
As well it should.
And is what I've been looking, they have rattled this, and that's why they shelved. They said put it to the side. Been working on this really hard. It's kind of crazy how much. So they wanted to come out and say this, working with AMD on this, and to work on the handhelds, the consoles. But they also had talked about the hardware lineup across the consoles, the handhelds, the PC, the cloud, and accessories. Kind of All right, cool. AMD's always helped them. But one thing that they did talk about is they want to make a silicon chip that instead of using emulation, they actually want in the chip the ability to run Xbox, Xbox 360, and Xbox One. So you can always bring your library forward without emulation. And so that's what they're talking about working on with that, which is, I think, is pretty cool. Like, all right, let's see how this works out with that. So that's nice for someone like me that has invested in Microsoft and has all these games that I can still play. So that's kind of nice. Second thing they were talking about is, and this was very obviously this was a video and it was very scripted and they wanted to say certain things. They did say that they wanted to, the Xbox team and the Windows team are working together to make Windows the best gaming platform. Yes.
Good luck.
I know. So,
like, I'm glad they're trying. They should have been trying a long time ago, is my point.
yes. So, and speaking of this SteamOS rattling, apparently this Windows 11, like they took a look at what Windows 11 was providing for that, for gaming and stuff, and for this handheld. And from what I heard, that's why they're like, hey, we can't release this. Like, we cannot. So, kind of interesting. I mean, we knew that they were trying to, I mean, with what they said with the handheld now, with the Asus, they're wanting to not combine the stores, but basically, hey, if you bought this here, you could play it. Like, if you bought it at this store, you could still play it on this device. And they did mention that that was another key thing that they said the next hardware that they want is not limited to one store. They said they just want to open so it has all the stores. So, which we talked about, we kind of knew, right? Like, as we've been talking, that's what they wanted. So that wasn't anything too new, but them coming out and actually saying it, very nice. So, Steam, man, they really rattled Microsoft with this OS.
Oh, yeah.
So, I think that's the biggest. I think that's the biggest takeaway from this announcement is, like, wow, Steam, man, good job.
What's interesting to me, like, okay, this is coming obviously from the non-gamer
Right.
But over the years, as I've been following this somewhat closely, just listening to you guys, it's like, this is obviously what we have been calling for since the beginning of the podcast. Literally, it's the Calling All Platforms podcast. We want things like this. But for the longest time, at least the last couple years, Microsoft has been the only major platform to be pushing that whole, we're going to put our stuff everywhere. We're going to make it available to use and play wherever on whatever hardware we can make it work with. And it was great. And that for that time, there weren't any really major rumors that anybody else was trying to do that. The only company that we even really thought that would maybe potentially do something like that would be Sony. And I still don't think that's going to happen for a while because they don't really
they've
need
been releasing some stuff on Steam. Like they dropped the odd game onto Steam.
Well, I'm saying more along the lines of like putting the PlayStation Store elsewhere, doing what Microsoft is doing. They can put their games elsewhere. That's, they're going to do that. Not necessarily on an Xbox, but they're going to put it on Steam, like you said, or something like that.
Right.
But,
except via Steam, maybe.
Yeah.
But and I'm sure Microsoft was not expecting a completely new platform to just pop up because it's not easy to just do that. And Steam has never hinted at doing that. They've always been perfectly fine being, this is where you can buy and play your games on your PC or wherever. And then, yes, the fact that they all of a sudden, hey, look, we've got our own operating system that runs flawlessly on this hardware and potentially is going to run great on the hardware you already have, which is directly competing with Microsoft. And they're like, oh, crap, now we actually have competition, which for us is absolutely fantastic.
Yes.
But like what Wes
Yeah.
is saying,
Yes.
it kind of sucks for Microsoft, but I don't feel bad for them because, again,
No.
this is great for the consumer because when there's competition, that means they have to try and earn our money, which means better
Yes.
products.
Yes.
And I'm truly, genuinely hoping that SteamOS does come to the PC market, not just pre-installed on certain handhelds. And it is looking like it's going to be that way. And if it
Yeah.
does, Microsoft is really going to have to try extra hard to make Windows 12 or whatever they come out with next
Mhm.
actually be functional and work well on games or for games and for handhelds and for everything. Because if
Yes.
they don't, Steam is going to take over because everybody, well, not everybody, but a lot of people that play with inside the Microsoft Store on a PC also use Steam because it just makes sense.
Yep.
And so if they don't have to then go back to Microsoft, like, well, most of my games are already on Steam. My Microsoft games are probably going to come here. I'll just stick with that. So I get where Microsoft is coming from, but I absolutely love it. I love to see it, and I'm really hoping. Again, I don't think Sony's going to do the platform type thing, but I would love to see them come up with like the PlayStation Store, whatever they call it, on PC or on a true handheld, not the crap that they released, or something to compete, because that would be even better for everyone.
Yes. I think so. I kind of also think this Microsoft doing the open up the stores and open up everything, I think is also, and this is my thinking and just what we have been talking about, I also think that helps them whenever for regulators and things, it helps them like, hey, we're open.
Yeah.
Why can't you open Apple? Hey, we're open. Why don't you open this store? You know what I mean? Like, I think that also helps their case for that. And because
yeah, I don't feel like they're being that open with it. Like, they want a vector on smartphones that they don't currently have.
yeah,
So they're trying to push in that direction. I just, like, my biggest thing is that Windows 11, Windows in general, but especially Windows 11, is never going to get me because it's so focused on being a nanny cam, monitoring all of my movement, feeding me ads in the start menu, stuff like that. And that's what Microsoft, that's kind of their future business model.
Mhm.
They're pushing in that direction so hard. Whereas Valve's business model is going to continue to be, we just scoop a little bit off the top of every dollar that you spend on Steam. That's how they make their money.
Mhm.
That's how they're going to continue to make their money. And they recognize that there's an opportunity for selling people more games if they're less frustrated with the operating system they're trying to play games on. Because I cannot count how many times I have come to sit down to play a game and I can't. Not because of Steam, but because of Microsoft. It's the OS. And it is so much worse for the Xbox games, right? Every time I open up the Xbox app to try and play Game Pass games or whatever, I like 90% of the time I open it. The app needs to be updated, which kicks me back to the Microsoft Store. That fails for whatever reason. And then I can't update my games because the app isn't updated, and so those won't launch. And I just quit it. Like, I don't play those games because Microsoft doesn't seem to want me to. Whereas at the very least, as long as the OS isn't installing updates, which, that's a whole different conversation.
Yep.
When I boot up Steam, either the games are already updated or it's a quick click update. They're not that long most of the time, and I can start playing. I don't know. The experience is just so much better there, and Microsoft needs to just, they need to recognize that their OS is constantly in the way of me playing games.
Interesting.
Despite the fact that it's like the only place I can play games. It is so often just blocking me from doing that. And that's what SteamOS is doing right. It's getting out of the way and letting people play games. And Windows 11 needs to do that, or it's never going to compete. And I think that's why that's why you see Microsoft doing this stuff.
Yes.
Like letting the Xbox team take over and make changes and fix gaming on Windows. Because on an Xbox, you don't think about the OS.
No.
You just get in there and play your games. The OS gets out of your way.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what it should do when you're trying to play games. Windows sucks at that. It's so bad. And Linux used to suck at that. To be fair, Valve has put a lot of work into fixing that. And I think that's the thing. Like, the Xbox team probably can fix it on Windows. I just hope Microsoft is actually committed to letting them fix it.
Let's hope.
I think that's the biggest thing there is the Microsoft team is just getting in the way of everything because they think of a computer operating system and they think business. That's what Microsoft has been since the beginning, is a business operating system. And it works fine for that. I'm not going to say it works great for that because there are issues, but it works fine. It works fine for that. But the problem is, like Caleb said, is like you go to an Xbox and you know it's going to be a perfectly fine experience. It's going to be good. You're going to have fun. You're going to be able to play your games just fine. You go to do that on a Windows machine. The problem is it's not made for gaming. And I'm not saying necessarily that Microsoft needs to come out with their own Xbox PC operating system, but something.
I'm saying that. I would love that so much.
I do think it would be really nice. I just don't necessarily think I'm not saying they need to, but they do need to put more people on the Microsoft team that actually care about gaming to make it a better experience. Because yes, even like, again, I haven't played a game on a Windows computer in I don't know how long, but even back in the day when I did, I remember having issues with the Microsoft side of things. Once I got into the game, it was fine. But the Microsoft side of things have always been an issue, and it's going to continue to be that way unless Xbox can do something about it. Like, like if they have to go in to like basically pull a Steve Jobs and build their own building, put up a pirate flag, and build their own operating system. Maybe that's what they have to do. I don't know.
I think.
Oh man,
I'm going to be honest, Steve.
It'd be so cool.
I think that took, I don't know who did, but Phil Spencer, Sarah Bond, they went up to the board and they grabbed their handheld with Windows on it, and then they had SteamOS on it, and was like, here, play. Which one's better? This is why we need to do this. Like,
the instant that this is even worse. The instant that we had a handheld that could run both Windows 11 and SteamOS, somebody took that, ran comparative tests between games running natively on both of those. The Steam Deck was fast, or the SteamOS version was faster. It was running the games better. So it's even after everything else, Windows is just less performant than SteamOS. It's a big mess.
Another great example of that is the fact that if you run Windows on an M series processor Mac, it runs better. Like the ARM version of Windows runs better on a Mac processor than it does on a processor it was literally made for.
Yeah, that's a Qualcomm issue, though. We don't necessarily have to blame that all on Microsoft.
It's partially true, but I mean, still.
I mean, Microsoft worked with them to design the chip, so
yes. There's a lot of issues with the Microsoft team.
I hope this just benefits and brings, like I said, we want the competition. We want that. I want to play games with, say, my family, with Caleb, and to be like, hey, this is on Game Pass, we should play it. And sometimes you hear that hesitation of like, is it by chance on Steam? Like it's funny because now, okay, To be honest, like that's what I do sometimes.
I genuinely would rather pay money.
No,
please.
honestly, there's times I'm like, hey guys, this game just came out. We should play it. And then the first thing I have to say is like, by the way, it's on Steam and it's this price. Because I'm like, it's crossplay. Let's play. By the way, it's on Steam. Like, so
Yeah.
That's saying something.
Oh, in fact, should I just, experiment? I'm just going to launch the Xbox app right now, and we're just going to see.
Oh, here we go.
What it does. Oh, right. It now has to separately sign into BattleNet every time I do that. Okay.
For BattleNet games?
Oh, I think I might actually be able to play games in its current state.
Oh man, that is actually one thing that even I am I'm glad I'm on the Xbox platform and not on the Xbox Windows, because I remember when they're because for most games it's now like, oh, not only do you have to open it on the Xbox app, any EA game, even though you have EA Play with that, you have to download the EA launcher to launch the game or some other that. I'm like, you got it. And so hopefully this new system actually just has a check mark that says, yes, this person can just play this game. Because, dude, having so many launchers, there is one thing I wish I would have done is had an Epic launcher and done the same thing Caleb did and just got a bajillion free games. I really wish I would have stuck with that and done that and been like, hey, look, I can play this because EA gave it to me. That's one thing I wish I would have done. But I just didn't stick with the free games. If they're good.
Tim Sweeney has given me so many games over the years. It's great. He's a great guy. So generous.
I need to clip that. Put it out everywhere.
Oh my gosh. Put that in the Put that in the intro.
How many games do I have in my Epic library these days? I don't even know.
Dude, I bet you have more Epic games than I do Steam.
No, that I can't.
I want to see.
Many.
I want to see.
I can't have that many. All right. How many do I? Oh gosh, does it not tell me? What Epic? Just give me a number. Oh, okay. Whoa, what?
I have my Steam number.
No, that can't be right.
What's your Epic number?
Holy crap. 121.
You have more Epic games than I do Steam. I only have 77 Steam games.
Holy snot. I did not realize that number was up that high.
See, that's what I'm talking about. I wish I would have kept up with it.
Dang.
One day, I don't know, I just got tired of having so many launchers and I just uninstalled them.
And here's the thing. I have some really good games in here, like Deathloop. I've got that.
That's a good one.
Sifu, got that. Dead Island 2. Yeah, all right. The entire Star Wars Lego saga, like Skywalker saga, have that. What else is in here? Jurassic World Evolution 2. Got that.
That's actually a pretty good game.
Yeah, I've heard good things. Geez.
That's what I'm saying. I wish I would have kept up with this because I would have had 100 and some games that once they merge and like on my Xbox, it says, oh, by the way, you've linked your account. It says you can play this through. Like, I wish I would have done.
Whoa. I've freaking Fallout and Fallout 2 and Fallout Tactics. Didn't even realize I had those. Already owned those on GOG. I did not need to redeem those on Epic, but I did.
Hey, there you go.
Dead by Daylight, have that. Jeez Louise. I should maybe play some of these, actually. Some good games in here. I don't know.
Well, let's go ahead. Let's move on.
Before we move on, I did have another thought going back to the whole complaining about things or Microsoft complaining about things. And there's going to be listeners out there that say, well, just buy an Xbox and you'll be fine. It's like, okay, yes, I understand where you're coming from. But I also see the PC side of things and think this is going to hopefully only get better for them. But also, it is only going to get better for you console-specific players because if if Xbox does fix Windows 11 or whatever they come up with later, it's also going to make the experience on Xbox significantly better. Not that it's bad. Again, we brought up it's fine, but it's going to make it better because it's going to be a more unified type operating system between the two, and it just will make even the console experience that much better and make your console just in general a better piece of hardware. by having better software. So
Yep.
yes,
Correct.
you can say, oh, just buy a console, just buy blah blah blah. That's fine, but this is still going to help those people as well. So you should be rooting for Steam to continue doing this and for Microsoft to do something because they haven't.
Yes, and they should. I agree. That competition is needed because, gosh, it's like Caleb said, like the sigh of, is it on? Do I have to play it through the Microsoft launcher? Like they shouldn't have to have that. Like they shouldn't have to have that. So it should just work. And so that's, I agree. Okay. We'll go ahead. Let's move on here. Some quick updates. One thing I did want to mention, Minecraft, those of you that have been away for a little bit, they're actually getting 3 major updates on here. The first thing is they're doing the Chase the Skies. This basically brings flying mounts to Minecraft, which is a gas that you can tame and fly all around. 60 new biomes, a player locator bar for finding friends easier, and new souvenirs. Cool. It comes everywhere for that. They also announced that they're finally bringing the vibrant visuals, that was announced years ago. They're bringing it. It works with the Minecraft Bedrock Edition on the Xbox Series consoles, the Xbox One, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Android, iOS, and PC. But it's not compatible with world and texture packs just yet, because basically those got to get updated with all the new stuff on there. So thought it was kind of cool. I actually hopped in, was messing with it, and it's pretty cool. Like the sun bounces off the light of the sun bounces off like the water. The shadows now move depending on where the sun is during the day. Lots of cool little things like that. I thought was pretty cool. So kind of fun. And I didn't expect it to be on iOS and Android, but you do have the options to go look at it on there. So, and also they did do an optimization for the series consoles as well on there. It says it's just optimized for them, which I heard was also supposed to be, it doesn't say on here, but I believe they also said for the PlayStation 5 and the newer, and I'm assuming they're going to try and do something with Nintendo Switch, but kind of interesting. There hasn't been a lot of Nintendo Switch news coming from Microsoft for updates on games and things like that. So, but I would assume that's coming later. So those of you that like Minecraft, want to check that out. It's kind of fun to go and just jump in and see. All right, let's go ahead and let's talk about the MetaQuest. And what about this MetaQuest? There is a limited edition MetaQuest, the 3S Xbox edition. It is launching at the price of $399 in this bundle in the US and UK. And it does say very limited quantities. So what comes with this MetaQuest? Well, it's going to bring you a pre-paired limited edition Xbox wireless controller and 3 months of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. They say for free, but I would like to let people know that if you were just to get a MetaQuest, like back in March, a regular one, the Quest 3 headset, it's only $299. So for $100 more, you can get 3 months of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, a new wireless controller, and let's be real, a new paint job does help, right?
It's black now.
Black. So there you go. That's limited edition. I think this is mainly, what is this? Just a collector's edition type thing? Like,
sure.
I guess.
I mean, it may not run quite as well as the regular one because it has Xbox written on it, or Microsoft is associated.
They do have a little Xbox tax on there, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so if you're interested, you can go ahead and do that and grab that piece of hardware. Let's go ahead and move on. Well, this is probably going to hit big just because there's more layoffs coming to the Xbox team. Microsoft did say there was a report that was leaked out saying that we're starting in July 1st. There's going to be, they said, substantial cuts across the entire group of Xbox. So awesome. Not really, but figured we'd go ahead and get ahead of this, say what it is. And the reason why July 1st is because that is their brand new fiscal year. So they're going to go ahead and report everything and then layoffs or whatever they're going to do. So figured we'd go ahead and talk about that. Now, I actually wanted to talk about a game. In this next little bit, I wanted to recommend a game that's a game called Sunderfolk. I've been actually keeping an eye on this game, and it's really, really interesting. And I wanted to bring it up for both Caleb and Landon, because this might be something I might look into. Sunderfolk. So this was actually published by Dreamhaven. Dreamhaven was created by Mike Morheim. And this actually was made, not by his they just published it, but it was developed by Secret Door. What's really interesting about this game, and I've been having fun, is when you play it, and it is on Steam, on the Xbox, and everywhere, is you actually use your phone as your quote-unquote controller. And it's all about co-op play, and it's basically tabletop. So in the description here is you rediscover game night with the magic of Sunderfolk, a shared turn-based tactical RPG adventure where your mobile phone device becomes the controller, with built-in co-op experience in mind for up to 4 players to adventure through magical and dangerous Sunderlands. So instead of like of it being like a controller as in like up, down, left, right, A, B, all that, it actually is like a tabletop. So you get into a scenario and you actually can move your character wherever, however many spaces, and whoever's turn it is, and you have certain abilities, and you set up your RPG character from it. And it's actually really, really interesting. I actually bought it, downloaded it, played it with my family, and even my kids were having fun with it, and teaching them how to do RPG, how to do turn-based, as if we had a board game laid out. Like, okay, you can move this here, you can use this ability. Okay, if you go too far, then this mob can see you, and then they'll come into, I call it niche, but like I'm thinking Dungeons and Dragons, but you come into, actions. But even on your phone, it shows like all the information you would need for like enemies that are on board. And what was really kind of interesting is when we got to a new enemy in a new area, it allowed each one of us to name something. So for example, a new enemy came up, which was, they're like, hey, we normally would call this an ogre archer, but you have the ability to rename it whatever you want for the rest of the game. So it's easier for you and your group to have. But of course, my son got that and he called it Mr. Butts. So every ogre archer name was Mr. Butts throughout the campaign.
Oh, good.
But there were other little things you can do. But it was really interesting because there's not a lot of set up. Like you pick your character, you name it, and then you go. And then it actually has your smartphone. So what you do is it does require a free smartphone or tablet app to play, which is just the Sunderfolk thing. And what's cool is you don't have to have an account. So when they have a QR code that comes up on the screen, it says, okay, just scan it. You get the QR code, and then you can create an account if you want to, but you could just say go and just play. And you just play. You hop in, and it's called Sunderfolk. And we've gotten through the tutorial, and we're now in the town, and you get gold and stuff, and you can upgrade the town and get loot and characters, and it's so fun. Like I hope I'm explaining this as best as I can.
Actually, I've totally heard about this game.
Did you?
During their initial funding push and stuff. So conceptually, I've been aware of it, but I haven't really looked at it in quite some time.
Yeah,
like a year or so. But no, it's I don't know. That seems I appreciate that it's a single purchase. Mm-hmm. Like one person buys it, and then everybody pulls out their phones
and just plays,
and they can play.
Yep.
Right? Like it's a very classic couch co-op type experience in the same way that playing a tabletop RPG is.
It is.
Right? So like it has to be that if they want to claim that it feels like a tabletop RPG to play. But yeah, no, that's interesting. I may check that out.
You really should. Like I said, it's on Steam. It's on Xbox, obviously. I got it on there. But it was kind of fun. I wanted to show a couple people what I did is I streamed it from my Xbox to my Discord and had them connect to it from there.
Mm-hmm.
And just a mess to show them. And they were able to connect, obviously, through Discord and play. And there wasn't at all like much lag or anything. So that was kind of cool. But it was really fun. I wanted to recommend this. So if you're interested, and it does say everyone 10 plus, but the only thing is just fantasy violence, but very basic. You have 6 characters to choose from. Like obviously there's a big polar bear, which is kind of the tank, and it will tell you like tank. It has a little lizard that's like this pyromancer, and my daughter was having fun with it, with just setting things on fire and collect, and it has little mechanics for you to do for your character. So for example, the pyromancer would set fire all around, and if it didn't hit an enemy, it would sit there. And if you're the little pyromancer, if you walk on the fire, you collect it and get more powerful. And then when you do spells, so it's got little mechanics like that for your character. But it's one of the first things that I thought it was so funny is you get on a bridge and it's okay, here you go. Who's going to do what? Well, my son took his character and was like, oh, I'm going to go next to the guy, this enemy guy. Went over and actually said he pushed it, and he went over and pushed the enemy, and then the enemy was next to a cliff, and so the enemy just dropped down the cliff and died. Instead of that, he just whoop, boom, dead. I was like, that's actually pretty cool, like to add something like that. So it's not just just hit the person over and over till their HP dies. There's other little tactical things you can do, and so thought it was really interesting. So, yeah, I just wanted to recommend Sunderfolk. It was published by Dreamhaven, developed by Secret Door. I think, let's see, it does not show me on here. I think it's $40, 40 or 50.
Yep. Yeah, it's 40.
Not bad at all. So, like I said, the people that want to connect, all they have to do is download an app from their store. It's like, I think it's called the Sunderfolk controller, and they don't even have to make an account. You just hit QR code on the screen, and there you go, off away. So it's pretty fun. I'll have to show you guys, maybe stream it sometime for you, and you can take a look and connect and mess. So, but yeah,
there is a free trial of it available as well.
Oh, is there?
Looks like all 3 storefronts. Oh, not Nintendo. Is it on Nintendo?
I didn't see.
Xbox, PlayStation, and Steam all have a free trial available.
Yeah, do it. It's worth a try if you're into that, and especially if you got a kid or two that has like a little tablet or smart little whatever, you can have them cop in and play. So, all right, let's go ahead and we'll move on from Sunderfolk. We're going to talk about the Steam Summer Sale.
Yeah, that's happening right now, listener. It's going to go until July 10th. So you got a little bit of time. I always like looking through the Steam Summer Sale. I don't necessarily buy a bunch of stuff, but it's always fun to appreciate sort of how well certain games have done versus others. So for example, some of the headliners on this year's sale are Assassin's Creed Shadows, which is a game that came out like 4 months ago, 3 months ago, something like that. It is currently 25% off. The remaster of Elder Scrolls Oblivion, that is currently 20% off, and that's been out for like
couple months,
a week, like a few weeks, like a month, something like that. It's not long. And you compare that to Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. It's been out a little bit longer, 20% off. Okay. Ghost of Tsushima has been out for like 3 years at this point, is 33% off. So you see some of these games. Helldivers 2 has been out for just over a year, 20% off. Grand Theft Auto 5, yep, you can still buy that.
Yeah,
that's still the most recent entry in the GTA franchise. How wild is that? 50% off, right? That seems appropriate for a game that is like the age of your grandparents. And then, Cyberpunk 2077, that's a few years old. Steep discount on this one, actually 65% off. So it's just kind of interesting to see how, newer games, a little bit less discount, older games, a little bit more. Space Marine 2, actually 40% off right now. Elden Ring, 40% off right now. Farming Simulator, that's 15% off. Don't know why that's getting less of a discount than some of these other ones. And then you come across a few noteworthy entries here, like Hogwarts Legacy, which is not that old, 75% off currently.
Wow.
So that is kind of rough. And then you got a couple of older games that are, Game of the Year contenders, like Black Myth Wukong and Baldur's Gate 3, both of which are 20% off, versus Forza Horizon 5, which is about the same age. Maybe, I think that's like a year older, which is 50% off. So,
Mm-hmm.
it's obviously the more popular game, the lower the discount's going to be. But Civ 7 is seeing what I believe is its first sale, 15%. Not a huge discount, but it is like brand freaking new. And then EA Sports FC 25. So they can't call it FIFA anymore because they don't have that license.
That's
This
fine.
is the
FIFA
brand
does
new
not
one.
Need more money.
Yeah. This is the brand new one, right? This is the brand new EA Sports football, football in the actual worldwide sense of football game. One of the most popular video games on the planet, at least in terms of the whole franchise. 80% off.
Wow.
80. Baldur's Gate 3 has been out for over 2 years at this point, is 20% off. This one is $14. So, yep, good time to buy that. And then, by comparison, Clair Obscur Expedition 33, that one really popular game from France that came out like about the same time as that EA game.
Mm-hmm.
10%. It's 10% off. It's barely even discounted. So yeah, good times. There are a few notable, extremely steep discounts. If you didn't get Jurassic World Evolution 2 for free on Epic, like I apparently did at some point, it's $3 right now.
Yeah.
Borderlands 3, also $3. That's a 95% discount, which is pretty staunch. The Blasphemous games, sure, you get Blasphemous. It's $2.50. What else was on here? Oh, Battlefront 2. Remember that? The bad one, not the good one. The bad one. It's $4. The Marvel Guardians of the Galaxy game. That sure turned out to be a printing money machine for them, didn't it?
Yeah.
It's $6. So not a lot. Yeah, good times. Also, Black Mesa, which is, basically a fan-made remake of the original Halo in the Source engine, that's $2. So if you don't already own that, this is how you get that, is via Steam sales. So there you go. It's on now. Always worth checking to see if any of the games on your wish list are on sale when Steam summer sale comes around. For me personally, I've got Space Marine 2. That one is on my list and it's 40% off. That's pretty good. Should probably grab it.
That is cross-play,
I've
too,
got,
by the way.
It is Horizon Zero Dawn Complete Edition, currently on sale for $40. The Forgotten City, honestly forgotten that I had added that, ironically. That's 75% off. So yeah, maybe I should get that. Actually, it's like $6. Okay. Anyways, Steam summer sale going on now. Check it out.
Very, very good stuff. All right. Well, that's the end of that segment, and that brings us to the end of the episode. Unless, Landon, you got one more thing for us.
No.
All right, listener, we appreciate you listening to the end of the episode and listening as much as you have, really. Definitely appreciate you. If you want to get a hold of us, you can. Want to talk about anything, have us talk about something, or want to recommend a game for Caleb and I to try, and maybe even Landon. He might, if it's a mobile game. Maybe. You can suggest it to us on our social media platforms, as well as callingallplatforms.com. And if you want to check out the YouTube channel, if you want to go ahead and ring that bell, subscribe, do whatever you want to, because there may be something down the pipeline for a newer video coming. Isn't that correct there, Caleb?
Maybe. It's possible.
There's possibility.
Anything's possible, though,
There's
really.
possibility. All right, dear listener, have a good week.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Calling All Platforms is a production of Supporter Sound Studios. To learn more about how you can support the podcast, go to www.patreon.com/callingallplatforms.